as we mentioned before, there are many resources on the internet. It's easy to find information. For me, there's even, let's say, too much information, and some of them are reliable and some aren't. And the social media, people go to Facebook to try to find some information or some tips. And I know that there's many benefits from having social media. And I can see some, talking about anxiety, some bad examples as well. Uh, too much information. Do you what in your opinion, what do you think about social media and the relocation procedure? It can be a helper, or what do you think about it?
Well, it's of course it can be a helper because what's great about helping is that you can meet lots of other people that are in similar situations, so you don't feel alone. And you can start to meet people before you arrive, so you can, as you know, moving to another country as an adult, especially if you don't have a job or colleagues or children that you're going to get engaged in, say the neighborhood or whatever. It's, I think another anxiety is people think, oh, how am I going to make friends? And again, that would be if you were moving to a whole other city in your own country, let alone Portugal or another country. But the downside of social media, in my opinion, is that it creates that sort of viral effect. So there's a couple of issues. Number one, it creates a viral effect so that if somebody says something and a couple other people echo it, even though it might be completely wrong, it gets blown up and then it just becomes a living thing in and of itself. And then it's like a bad game. We have a game in the US as children called telephone, where you whisper something and then at the end it's different. And that is what I think sometimes happens with this. So I think it's useful to look at social media like Facebook or something for insights, but not necessarily for accuracy of information from lay people, because lay people have generally only their own experience to know about, and what they have and what you have might be completely different needs. So that's sort of the first side. And then the other downside is because it becomes very emotional very quickly. That's the one thing I don't like about social media, is because people don't know each other. They can hide behind a persona or something and say things, of course, that you would never say to somebody directly to their face. And then that gets in the way to me as well. That's why I like to talk about ExpaCity as we have a snark-free environment, which I don't actually. We have a private Facebook page. I don't admin it. We don't have an admin on it. It's for the members who want to engage it. We use it to dispense information, but otherwise it's their page to chat on. Every great once in a while I'll pop in with something that I see I can give, like sort of a tip, but we don't answer questions. I don't answer questions on our private Facebook page or something because, again, we're not the answer people. That's not, I mean, I'm not the answer person. And I think that that's what people tend to look at social media for. Sometimes it's like, I will find the answer. And as you and I both know, oftentimes there's not just one answer. And sometimes there's a combination of things that you need to look at, consider, and then analyze, if you will, to figure out what is actually going to be something that's going to work for you. So social media can be feel like an easy answer, and it's generally not. It can be super helpful, but I always even say the articles are great as basic learning because somebody else is giving the writer the information to put into accurate, effective communication. But they don't know all the nuances and all the things that you and I both know are part of so many things in the immigration process. It's one of the reasons why we use video and experts, because there's so much that you can convey, and when you're doing a webinar, that you probably wouldn't necessarily put in writing to an article, but you can convey verbally with tone, facial expressions, and gestures and everything to say, like, well, yeah, it's a little bit like this, but not always, and that's something that's not that easy to convey in writing. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but it's got so many good uses.
Yeah, I share the same view as you do, Amy. It's nice to see someone who has successfully moved to Portugal celebrating on social media, and everybody is happy with the results. This is something that I really like about social media. I know people get together with they're happy. They're really happy that one of us had gone through this path and now living in Portugal. This, I think, is very positive. But just like you, when someone shared their experience in a specific place, for example, it's something very unique. An interview at IMA, for example, people share, what documents you should bring with you, and not only the situation is unique, but unfortunately, one thing that I see very often happen here in Portugal is that depending on whom you speak to in public agencies, finance, you can receive a different outcome. And so not only the person's situation, but also the person you speak to. So there are many variables here. So taking just one guide and think that, oh, this should happen because I read on Facebook that this is the situation. Sometimes it's not the case.
I think it's like, I don't know what it was like for you, but when I was in school and we were learning to write like analyses or reports, or whether it was in English or history or whatever courses we were studying, you always had to find multiple resources in order to write a paper or basically do. It teaches you, right? Education was teaching us how to think, and certainly in the American education school system, I'm pretty sure in Brazil, I think, and some cultures have different ways of thinking, but generally that's what you're doing. And so when you think about immigration, you're going to be doing something entirely new, a whole environment, a whole life, a whole everything. So yeah, it's kind of like, writing a very important thesis that you are going to be living for quite some time. And so it's very useful to have more than one resource.
You get to, it's even, in my opinion, you get to know a little more about the country when you do your research. And you can even, let's say, you can navigate a situation better if you were to just if you understand, let's say, this is a document that is required for this reason. You can then argue with the person. Okay, you're asking me this, but that's why. And it's good to have a critical thinking about what you're doing, not just follow someone's opinion.
Yeah,
that's what I think as well.
Yeah, and actually, and something else, I think this is one of the most astute insights that one of the members. I learned so much from the members, like I'm sure you learned from your clients as well. One of the members said, "Yeah, I'm not buying a house, but I'm watching those webinars anyway because I learned something different and valuable about the culture when I start learning about these other things." And it's so true, because when you learn that certain things, approaches and processes work a certain way, then you can go, so maybe that's why the grocery store works like this, or whatever. And it's true that whole context can be very, very helpful.
Yeah, I agree, Amy. We are coming to the end, and that's really a pity because I love speaking to you, and your insights here are really, really, really amazing. I'm pretty sure that those who are watching us will find something useful for their moving to Portugal. And just to conclude, Amy, in terms of your plans for the future, do you plan to stay here in Portugal? You mentioned that you don't want to move back to the US, right? But what are your plans? To stay here?
Yeah, my plans are to stay here. Sorry, dog.
No
I
worries.
should have said that.
He wants to stay
Sorry,
here as well. You
apologies for
see?
getting very quiet. I have two dogs and they were very quiet. But he likes to bark at whoever's walking by. I will stay in Portugal. I don't have any strong desire to move back to the States. I mean, Portugal is home. For one thing, I feel like I've learned like 60% of living here, so I should make use of it and learn the other 40%. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy my life here. I like the pace.